And that was the year that Gil Saunders said the job of his dreams on the Essex Chronicle. Yeah. He said he described it as exciting and interesting. I might query that. John Thompson, OBE, DL, that's Deputy Lieutenant, like Stuart Rawlings, JP, Justice of the Peace. The proprietor and editor of the Essex Chronicle was a portly and silver-haired worthy, an alderman who had served 6 terms as mayor of Chelmsford. His large house, Briley Place, blown to smithereens in German air raid about 4 or 5 years later, was at the top of London Road, next to St Philip's Priory. It had a private bowling green in the grounds where my father, Gil's father, had played from time to time. Jot, as he was known, J-O-T, employed a chauffeur handyman named Hudson, who drove a large old-fashioned chocolate-coloured Sunbeam, the family car. Surprisingly, his employer frequently opted to use a bicycle for the 1-mile journey between Briley Place and the office, which was in the High Street. Became Jessop's the photographers. I can't remember what time it's closed now, isn't it? His worship's progress, a slow, stately, slightly wobbly, was a familiar sight in the town. Now, did he commandeer this bicycle? Was it allowed? Was it supposed to be for the staff? You know, one wonders. As in the Essex Weekly News. The Essex Weekly News people reporters weren't allowed to charge expenses for buses because of the existence of the office bike. And but of course, the office bike had been appropriated by the chief sub, a man called Rouse, and it eventually ended up in Mr. Rouse's daughter's possession. So the poor reporters had to pay for everything. Yeah, it's true. The opportunity to join the Chronicle had arisen with the departure of a young man, in his 20s named Robert Ellison, one of the 3 strong, just like now, strong reporting staff. The paper ran a midweek sheet called The Newsroom, one of the series. Thin on content, but able to catch a few court cases and sporting items that arrived too late for the main paper. Ellison, an elegant young man, what the hell was he doing in the Essex Chronicle? More interested in theatre than cricket, had been sent to the county ground to cover one of the Essex matches cricket we're talking about. He had become bored with the proceedings and wandered off for an hour to join some friends in a nearby pub. He returned later to find the ground deserted. There had been a batting collapse and the game was over. So was his career with the Chronicle, as he found when he returned to the office. Do you know what that puts me in mind of? When I was in the South End Stad and my wife Kathleen was the Essex Weekly News, we were both sent to cover the Essex Federation of WI's music festival, singing festival in the old Corn Exchange. We got so fed up with it, we both went to the pictures. And when we came back, we found that the ceiling had fallen in, just as Dora Russell Walker, always remember Dora Russell Walker, bold, calm, benign, large bosomed, said, "Raise the roof, ladies." So we both got into grave trouble about that because we weren't there for the big story. I mean, having to listen to Nimson Shepherd's 10 times over, that really was much too much. And the film was called Love Me or Leave Me with Doris Day at the Odeon. I'm digressing, aren't I? This poor man lost his job, but it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to him. Within a few days, he landed a job in Fleet Street, cool. On the show business page of the Daily Express, and was soon running a small feature of theatrical gossip called Stardust. I love that. but his luck didn't last. He was killed in France in 1940 while serving in the Durham Light Infantry. In due course, I was invited to meet J.O. Thompson in the elderly three-storey building the Chronicle occupied in the High Street in Chelmsford. Regarding me over the top of his spectacles, with my damn fine letter in his hand, the editor read its contents again, murmured something about it being perfect, and offered me a month's trial without pay, of course. If I proved satisfactory, my pay would be 30 shillings a week. God. Naturally, I agreed. I'd have taken the job if he'd said 30 pence. It reminded me of my interview at the East Anglia Daily Times with Mr. Wilson, who occupied a large office all by himself and did nothing, but he was the managing editor. And he only asked me one question: "Are you a communist, boy?" So I could say no, and I got the job. Long time ago. The paper I was joining reminded its readers each week that it was founded in 1764 and is therefore older than the Times. True. In its day it had reported Nelson's victory at Trafalgar and the gallantry of the Light Brigade at Sebastopol. Then it was a broadsheet of 12 congested pages with a circulation of 24,500. Southend Standard, my training paper, had a weekly circulation of 90,000, which was really good for a weekly paper. Second largest circulation for a weekly in the country, after the Stratford Express. It cost 1 penny, and it was packed with the minutiae of life in the county: weddings, funerals, school events, livestock sales and prices, wish drives, social gatherings, flower shows, council meetings, police courts without number. The entire process of making the paper, from writing to setting, to printing and dispatching, took place in the single rickety building. Library at the top, printing presses in the basement, and in between, the advertising, editorial and other offices. The reporter's room, ill-lit, was cramped and dingy. An old double-sided desk with 2 chairs on either side took up most of the space. The single window facing the wall of the passage alongside the building looked as if it hadn't been cleaned for years. The cubby hole next to the reporter's room housed the telephone, one telephone, the pedestal type with a separate earpiece, and the other side of that was a larger room. This had 2 roll-top desks, one for the editor and the other for the paper's only sub-editor. Dusty old papers, dictionaries, guides, maps, lists, reference book and general clutter were everywhere. There was even a speaking tube which enabled the editor to contact the head compositor upstairs if necessary. Dickensian was the word. There was a gap of at least 25 years between my 2 fellow reporters and myself. Freddie Tapp, God of happy memory, I remember him. Nominally the chief reporter, was a neat little man whose well-brushed hair carried an agreeable whiff of solidified brilliant scheme. He originated from Bideford in North Devon and spoke with a soft West Country burr, but he was rather deaf, a legacy from the trenches in the Great War, and because of this spent most of his time in the office on rewrites and helping with the subbing. He had the useful ability to read my shorthand when I was not able to. Fred generated some extra cash for himself with lineage, which is a common practice among provincial reporters, acting as part-time correspondents for Fleet Street. His tie-in was with the Press Association of Happy Memories and some trade papers, feeding occasional items for which the reward was anything from a few shillings to a few pounds. The other reporter was J.C. Chaplin, John Chaplin, Do I remember John Chaplin? My goodness. He was the man who introduced me to Essex quarter-settings and assizes. And he did love a drink. Eventually he was carted out of number one court, screaming, because he said he'd seen a great big pink parakeet fly through the window of number one court. His son, I think also John, was a printer at the Essex Chronicle, not too long ago, when they printed the paper on site. And how John, oh God, I remember him so well. The other reporter was J.C. Chaplin. John to us, Charlie to others, I didn't know that, who had worked in Colchester before moving to Chelmsford, with lank black hair and a florid complexion, somewhat overweight, and wearing clothes that had seen better days. Well, he was coming towards the end of his time when I knew him. And I went to see him. He had, because of the drink, he had to go into one of the London hospitals, Brompton, I think it was, and I went to see him. And the irony was, he was put in a bed which had been paid for, dedicated to a worthy of the London Borough of Kingston and Chelsea. And one of the terms of this endowment was the occupant should, at 4:30 or 6:30 every day, be served a pint of beer and a silver tankard, just right for someone who's got dipsomania. He never drank it. He never drank the drink, the beer. He used to send it away and ask for a tankard of cherry bee or baby sham, virtually non-alcoholic. And these wishes were complied with. It was served by the matron. I remember that. I was present, I watched it. Dear old John. Yes, John had this drink problem, and the booze made him loquacious and curiously formal. Someone told me he had been something of a dandy in his younger days. And he had a habit of pulling his shabby raincoat around him more tightly, as if self-conscious of his appearance. Poor John was terrified of the prospect of dying, and once stormed out of our room because I was apparently whistling the Dead March from Saul. Poor John. It didn't last very long, actually, after going into hospital. Because he attended so many public events in the course of his job, football matches, police courts, council meetings, and dozens of others, as well as being a regular in the half-dozen pubs closest to the Chron. Now, there was one on the corner, wasn't there, which is now Burster and Eves, two in Tyndall Street, the Spotted Dog and something else. Yeah, so he didn't have far to go. Yeah, John was one of the best-known figures in the town. My father knew him well, and seeing him at a Chelmsford City football match, when it was known I would be replacing Bob Ellison of the paper, stopped to have a word with him. He was taken aback by Chaplin's reaction. Dropping his usual geniality, Chaplin made it known the paper needed to replace an experienced reporter with another experienced reporter, not someone with no experience at all. At this distance, I can entirely sympathise with poor John. He could see a pile of extra work coming to cover for the absent Ellison, while this green kid was still trying to learn the basics. But Chaplin's conscience must have troubled him afterwards. I was with my father at another City game when Chaplin signalled to him from the press box at half-time to come over. "Is that your boy, Percy?" he asked. "I'd very much like to meet him." Dad came back. "Charlie wants to meet you," he said, and escorted me across. He introduced us. Dear old John put out his hand, beaming, and told me how much he was looking forward to working with me, and how he hoped we'd have a long and amicable relationship. His very words, I hadn't heard anyone say amicable before, and I can't say it either. It was John's way of saying sorry to my father. Despite all the goodwill and best intentions, my early weeks at the paper were anything but promising, rather like me in the Southend Standard. I remember doing a court case once, careless driving case. Instead of writing screen, I wrote window screen. And the deputy chief sub came, well, he called me. I felt like Pike in Dad's Army, you stupid boy. But it was a bit tougher than that. Oh yeah. Yeah, despite all the goodwill and best intentions, and my early weeks at the paper were anything but promising. All our reports were handwritten. I don't think there was a typewriter in the whole building. And we used sheets of what was called copy paper, measuring about 8 inches by 6, a convenient size for the linotype operators who turned the words into slugs of hot metal. I mean, these bits of copy paper, they were sort of torn off the big rollers. And on the Southend Standard, they also studied for toilet rolls. Absolutely, I mean, John H. Burroughs and Sons, it was do the boys' hall. It really was. Spell window, clean it. Well, this is a note from Gil to Steve Clone, written on copy paper. It's just what it was like. And God knows, I mean, he's still writing. He must have taken a store of it away when he left the Chronicle. But I don't think it stood in for toilet rolls in the Essex Chronicle, even there. No, we didn't have... Yes, we did have carbons. Blacks, we called them. Blacks, yeah. And all court cases were blacked because you were in one court doing your cases, and in another court there were even more cases you needed. So you blacked for the reporter in the other court, and he blacked for you. Well, back in the office, when you had to type up your copy, and this was called copy paper, you put your carbon in between 2 sheets, and put it in a typewriter and bashed out your story or whatever. And that was because you kept one copy for yourself, and then you gave the other to the sub-editor. Sometimes we put 2 bit blacks in, because it used to have to go. You used to, on the Southend Standard, it went around like on a carousel. You had your one, your bit of copy in the black. The sub had another one, the news editor had another one, and the editor had another one. So simultaneously they all knew what was going on. And they were aware of the story.
And you used the carbon paper, the black, until it was completely shredded by the typing action.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, carbon paper was, it was used till it fell apart. Another little economy. Can't believe it was just like that. Absolutely so mean. 2 guineas a week I got at the Southend Standard, £2, 2 shillings a week. And for that I worked virtually every evening and Saturdays, endless bazaars, flower shows. Good training, I suppose. Names in the papers sold papers. First, second and third. That's how it was. Doing a bit more of that now. Anyhow, where am I? Oh yeah. The copy paper measured about 8 inches by 6, a convenient size for the linotype operators who turned the words into slugs of hot metal. On the Southend Standard, when the paper was going to press, the whole building shook. And the same happened when the Chronicle and the Essex Weekly News went to press. Their building shook, as did Chelmsford High Street. It was quite an occasion. And the same thing was when I still nostalgically called Fleet Street, when the Daily Express, which was opposite my office, went to press. The whole of Fleet shook. Yeah. We used to call the Daily Express building, which was all black in front, King Kong's lavatory, because when the paper was being delivered once a week, these huge rolls, massive, just like gargantuan toilet rolls. So that's where the King Kong's lavatory came. Right, slugs of hot metal. Excuse me. To hasten the process, common words were contracted into a kind of speed writing, recognised instantly by all journalists and typesetters. Thus, of became O, the was I, that's strange, without the dot. With was W, which was WH. For became F, and from was FR. The present participle would end with a G instead of a ing, ing. Excuse me. Practised hands, like Tappan Chaplin, would turn out copy at speed using these contractions, words often being linked without the pen being lifted from the paper. Yet the end result was not only legible, but neat as well. In the Southend Standard, we had to supply our own typewriters. The beneficent management didn't supply us with typewriters. If we didn't have typewriters of our own, which I only seem to remember my grandfather put in mine, you wrote out all your copying hand. Yeah, by hand. Yeah. There was a lift too, which none of us was allowed to use. Only the managing director and his sister Doris were allowed to use the lift. Incredible place. Nothing to it, thought I, racing pen across page, until our elderly and doleful sub, Yerbs, as he is called, Edward Palmer Yerbury, who seemed to have been with the paper since those reports from the Crimea, shuffled into the room, bearing my latest offering. 12 words on this page, he said, displaying the untidy scrawl. You'll have to do better than that. And he went on to criticise not only the handwriting, but its content.